Hi, my name is Chelsea Bezuidenhout, and this video is about my action research project proposal entitled The Potential Trickle-Down Effect of Investing in Parent ESL Classes. Before I get started on sharing about my action project proposal, I wanted to share some background information about me. Again, my name is Chelsea Bezuidenhout, and I am currently working on receiving my master's degree with my preliminary teaching credential in multiple subjects. This coming August, I will be starting as a university intern teaching first grade. My prior experience includes substitute teaching as well as being the director of youth programming for Strong Cross Ministries, which is a nonprofit in South Africa. During my time with this nonprofit in South Africa, I was exposed to a lot of English language learners and got the wonderful experience of trying to figure out best practices for reaching those students and how they might need a little different instruction, such as integrated and designated ELD instruction, as compared to those that are native English-speaking students. My research topic specifically is about improving ELLs' attitudes towards school and subsequently improving their English proficiency by investing in their parents through adult ESL classes. A great quote that I found from Henderson and Mapp says that when schools, families, and community groups work together to support learning, children tend to do better in school, stay in school longer, and like school more. Since we know that students do better when they have parents who are involved in school, we as teachers are usually asking the question, how can I get parents involved? And I believe that that needs to look a little bit differently for our ELLs because our parents can't help their students, especially at home, if they don't know English themselves. So they can't help teach English if they themselves are not English proficient. Also, students need to see a positive relationship between their family and their school. So in short, the study is to find whether increasing parent involvement through the means of hosting ESL nights for the parents of ELLs in a kindergarten class has a positive effect on their attendance in school, their attitude towards school, and their English proficiency level. Why I wanted to investigate this topic is to rethink how we approach parent involvement for ELLs. On the last slide, I touched a little bit about how we need to approach parent involvement much differently than we would for parents of white, middle-class, majority, suburban students. This quote that I'm sharing from Darling, 1994, really shares the sentiment of a large majority of the parents of our ELLs. It says, "Every time I think of walking in the school door, I get sick to my stomach. The idea of going back there for any reason terrifies me." This statement reflects a fear held by one of the hardest to reach segments of the adult population, undereducated parents who believe they can never be a part of the system. When I read that quote, it broke my heart and it really made me ask the question, how do we collaborate with parents when there is a language barrier and they have schooling histories that are drastically different than that of the American public school system? So I thought we need to think outside of the box. We need to think about things such as adult ESL classes. And really the significance of this project lies in the academic and social success of our English language learners and their parents. Educators, school administrators, school districts, and concerned parents will now have relevant data about the importance of parents' involvement, especially in regards to our ELLs. Educators will know that this is a tested way to improve the engagement of ELL parents in their students' education. And this is so important because the U.S. average of English language learners in our public schools is 9.7%. In California, ELLs make up 20.2% actually of the student population. And so hopefully this will keep ELLs in school. The dropout rate of our ELLs is currently 50% of Latino students drop out by 9th grade and another 20% drop out before 12th grade. And another 10% will not be able to pass state required tests and therefore not graduate. And not only that, but students are spending the majority of their waking time, which is 70% of their time, outside of school. So it's imperative that we as teachers and educators in schools are supporting their home life, which also means that we need to be supporting their family members. Students simply will do their best work. They will be motivated to do their best when they believe that their school is motivated to do the best for their families. In short, the research questions that I came up with all of that information is, does providing adult ESL classes for parents and family members have a positive impact on the attitudes and attendance of English language learners in kindergarten when compared to a test group that has no access to a resource center? My second question, does having family members attend adult ESL classes improve the English proficiency level of English language learners at a kindergarten level when compared to a test group whose family members do not attend adult ESL classes? Some of the data collection strategies that I'm going to be using is using a school attitude survey as well as an English proficiency exam. The study is going to span several months over the course of an entire school year. That way we get accurate results as well as giving proper time for parents to be able to learn and apply what they're being taught at the ESL nights. Participants that we select have to commit to attending 80% of the ESL nights in order to be included in the research. A specific day of the week and time will be decided upon consulting the parents. There will be 30 meetings throughout the school year, which also accounts for time off of school and also allows for time at the beginning and the end of the school year to complete the surveys, the school attitude surveys, and the English proficiency exams. So each meeting will be an hour and a half long and will always allow for parent questions and time for translating. Each ESL night includes fellowship, an adult-focused ESL lesson, and reviews the policies and expectations of the school, as well as tips for helping their students at home with English. All of the materials are going to be provided by the researcher. There should be no financial burden for the participants outside of obtaining transportation to the class. Later on, I will give a more detailed explanation step by step of what exactly will be going on throughout the research. So again, I kind of touched on this a little bit in the previous slide, but how are we going to answer the research questions? We are going to be using a school attitude assessment survey. So based on McCoach's school attitude assessment survey, I came up with a 13-question survey for students to take where they mark whether they strongly agree, slightly agree, neither agree or disagree, slightly disagree, or strongly disagree with the following statements, such as, I like my teacher, I am motivated to learn, my school cares about me, I am glad to go to this school, I like my school, this school is a good match for me, my parents care about my academic learning, I am self-motivated to do my best work at school. And then again, at the end of the school year in May, they're going to take the same exact survey to see if there's any change in their attitude or thoughts regarding their school, teachers, and learning English, which will be compared to the control group to see if those students whose parents were more involved do indeed have a more positive view of school and their learning abilities. I will also be looking at attendance records to see if the students' attendance at school has improved compared to previous year's records for our students, which for kindergarten isn't always great, but I also wanted to make this more available for students that are in other grades and also to see if as we progress through the school year, if their attendance improves. Lastly, English proficiency exam for baseline and progress data. They're going to be tested using the 4 areas of English fluency, which is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. This exam is going to help determine if students have increased their English skills as a result of parent involvement in the provided ESL nights. We're also going to have a report of the ESL nights, which includes teacher feedback from the ESL nights to see how is the material taught, what exactly was covered, how was it received, was it mastered by the participants in the class. We will also want to ask the adult participants in the ESL nights how they thought that the classes went. Did they feel like they have made progress? Are they better suited to teach English? And obviously there's other data that will be collected, such as communication between the parents and the researcher, including student emails from the parents, letters and messages sent back and forth, prior knowledge that the students may have of any prior English exposure, anything that will give us a baseline for us to work off in regards to the student's English proficiency. On this chart, I wanted to show a little bit about how I will be analyzing the data that I receive. So on the top is the school attitude survey results, which show the cumulative score based on whether they strongly agree that would give them so many points versus agree versus disagree, and from that coming up with a cumulative score for each student and comparing that from the beginning of the year to the end of the year to see if there is a higher score of them strongly agreeing with these positive statements about their school. Also, the other chart on here is the LPAC scores, which shows the beginning of the school year versus the end of the school year with their English proficiency, and comparing that to the control group to make sure that it's not simply ELD strategies inside the classroom that are equating for this raise in their scores, but can actually be placed upon the fact that their parents are attending ESL nights. Some of the resources that I used in creating my action project proposal is looking at the REAP ESL curriculum for adults that is provided from Arlington Public Schools. It was great for adult ESL curriculum and gave really well thought out lesson plans that were accessible from their website. I also looked at the LPAC score ranges that are provided from the California Department of Education so that I would have a better idea of how to interpret the scores that the students in this research project are receiving. I also heavily relied upon McCoach's school attitude assessment survey when creating my own school attitude assessment. He had great questions on there, and I really enjoyed the format that he asked and the fact that it was able to be taken online, which I think is another great way of incorporating technology into the research. I also found a wealth of resources on parent engagement from the National University Library, as well as conducting my own web research. The National University Library was great on finding information on parent engagement in terms of looking at it differently than we traditionally do. It was also really great to just find information from the National University Library on how parent engagement does positively impact student success in school. More specifically, how I came to looking at adult ESL classes was heavily based upon the research provided by Gershwin, Coxwin, Kelly, and Yakimoff in their article about building tomorrow's workforce, which was about promoting the education and advancement of Hispanic immigrant workers in America. And they found that when they invested in the Hispanic immigrant workers by providing ESL classes as well as other community resources, that their children benefited. While that wasn't the sole focus of their research, they were looking more on the benefits of those workers inside of the businesses and productivity and commitment and engagement from those workers. It triggered a thought for me looking at how it did have that trickle-down effect for the students about how if we apply that same principle to providing ESL classes for parents, if that would also have a positive impact on our ELLs. The methodology that I will be using for the adult ESL classes will include engaging activities that build upon the participants' preferred methods of learning and level of background knowledge, as well as the 4 areas of English proficiency of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. There will be a focus on vocabulary terms, including techniques used inside their child's classroom for learning and mastering new terms. Along with that, strategies typically used throughout the school site in both designated and integrated instruction will be shared with the adults, including but not limited to think, pair, share, thinking maps, questioning, using whiteboards, sentence frames, sentence starters, looking at cause and effect, sequence of events, decoding, phonemic awareness, phonics, brick and mortar words, going on picture walks, decoding syllables, looking at cognates, doing echo reading, modeling, conducting jigsaw activities, completing theme charts, etc. And direct explicit language instruction in vocabulary, syntax, grammar, and the functions and conventions of standard English. Some reflective advice that I have after going through creating this project proposal so far is to know that time management is key. Make sure that you are managing your time and that you are staying on top of each component of the action research. Also, make sure that your topic is detailed enough that you can do adequate research on it, and that it's something that you are very interested in, as you are going to be devoting a lot of your time and in this project. Make sure that it's something that you care about and that you can potentially use in your own classroom one day. Lastly, I would say follow the Action Practitioner Guide for each course. It's there to help you, and it will definitely help you understand what is expected of your whole project proposal. My personal plans for the future are to execute this action research plan and, as always, continuously improve within the teaching field by being a lifelong learner. Thank you for listening. I hope that this gave you a good idea of what I'm planning to do in my action research project proposal, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.